Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Cool FM Live for our Cochise County Football Weekly Wrap-Up Preview Show.
The Cochise County Sports Show.
Cochise County Sports Show. There it is. Sometimes replicated, never duplicated. I'm Dave Davies. This is Paul Pizzy Quarter. Again, good morning. We are back at the Sierra Vista Golf Club at Pueblo Del Sol. Thank you for having us back. New management over here. Things are only going to get bigger and brighter. And also, we'd like to welcome back Texas Roadhouse, baby.
Roadhouse?
Jaime, the partnering manager, wanted to get back on board, support the community, support what we're doing over here. Hand-cut steaks, follow the bone ribs, baby. They also have a wonderful Dine to Donate program. If you have a charitable cause or a good cause you want to help out with, go see Jaime at Texas Roadhouse or Ashley, my manager, and they'll get you going with that.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, for Sierra Vista Dance Club, shout out. We have one coming up, Dine to Donate program. So, yeah, absolutely.
We had a Buena Colt football one last night.
Bisbee, there's been a lot of giving back to the community from Texas Roadhouse, and we couldn't be more excited to have them back with us. Roadhouse. Also, thank you to Synergy Home Care of Sierra Vista. Synergy Home Care provides non-medical home care for people that struggle with activities of daily living. So if it's tough for you to get up in the morning, take a shower, use the facilities, or even go get groceries, give them a call today at 520-685-1035. Synergy Home Care. Care that moves you. You know what moves me, Dave? High school football. Let's talk about it.
Oh, well, I mean, I always get a lot of people ask me all the time, like, how come we didn't do this game? How come we didn't do that game? There's only two of us. We can only do one game at a time. And so last week we decided to pick the biggest game in the country to go ahead and cover.
Some call it the only game that matters, honestly.
Yeah, the 154th Copper Pick Classic, and it lived up to all the billing.
Oh, man, we were there for the 153rd. You were actually there for the 152nd. One thing we found out was 3 years ago, Douglas had won this Copper Pick by 3 points. 2 years ago, they won it by 2 points. And last year, we were there, they won it by a point. This is a battle for that pick, and I'll tell you what, Dave, it lived up to all the billings last week. Friday night, 26-20, the Bisbee Pumas, for the first time since 2019, bring the Copper Pick back home to Bisbee, Arizona.
We had as we saw last year, as we talked about before the game, during the game, we had a quarterback battle for the ages. I went over pregame. I got to meet head coach Hunter Long. Mm-hmm. I insisted on meeting the young man, Ivan Aguirre, because I'm such a big fan of his, especially on a baseball field.
Oh, yeah. Best shortstop in Cochise County. Best
shortstop in Cochise County. But, I mean, boy, did they put on a show. My mother was like, boy, that quarterback from Douglas sure is really good. I was like, we know how good Lopez is. She wasn't familiar with Ivan Aguirre's game. She is now.
Of course, we are live, folks, so if you there it is. Joseph Coronado with the first comment in our chat says, hashtag Puma Pride. I'll bet there's a lot of Puma Pride going around this week. Unfortunately for the Pumas, they have very little time to celebrate as they're going to be home against Santa Cruz Valley, a top 3 team in 2A. So we're going to figure out if the Bisbee Pumas are 2A state contenders very quickly.
Well, we're going to figure that out live because, as we always say, if you ball, you get the call. We're going back to Bisbee this Friday. We do know the Friday after that we will be in Benson, Arizona. Well, they will take on the Tombstone Yellow Jackets. So time to get our eyes on those two teams.
If I can find a cameraman, we'll be out to Tombstone Thursday. Stay tuned, everybody. There's a lot of programming updates right now, but let's get into the football.
Yeah, he's going to try to get the Tombstone. I have my grandkids. He's going to try to get the Tombstone.
Unfortunately, Douglas will now fall to 0-2, and their next game is going to be at Sahara, and we don't have numbers on them. What we can say is Jose Ivan Aguirre is the truth. The kid had a great game.
They had him 5 times in the backfield. The kid's so slippery. Just couldn't take him down.
And then we know all about Jason Hurtado, the running back for the Douglas Bulldogs, but it was actually his little brother, don't quote me on that, Justin Hurtado, who had a huge game receiving, including a receiving touchdown. We assume he went over 100 yards because that's who Jose Ivan Aguirre was targeting for the most part. And that was, again, a back-and-forth affair. Bisbee went out to a 26-13 lead, and I actually made the mistake with 8 minutes left.
You called it.
The Bisbee Pumas got a 4th down stop. I said, there's just no way. This is it. It's 2 touchdowns, and with 8 minutes left, they're going to have to do some miracle working on Douglas to come back in this game. So then Douglas gets a 3-and-out, and Douglas goes right down, drives, scores a touchdown, gets the ball back, and was driving again.
For the win. And for the win. And not only that, they have a kicker. Luis.
Yeah. And so, he was putting the balls into the Bisbee Knight like they wouldn't believe.
Yeah, and so, Douglas was this close to winning the game. If they score that touchdown, you know the kid's making the kick.
So
and
Jose,
they were going to win that game by 1 again.
Jose Aveniguera rolls out to his right, throws this gorgeous ball in the end zone. It's up there for what seems to be an eternity, and it seemed to be just too long as Sebastian Lopez for the Bisbee Pumas, probably the most famous person on our sports show, we mention his name all the time, comes up with the game-sealing interception for the Pumas. But again, what a game. Let's get into some stats for the Bisbee Pumas, and we're going to start with
Coach Long. I've met you now. I can talk to you personally. We need your stats on the Max Prep so we can talk about the boys.
Shout out to Coach Ochoa for Douglas, who always got us taken care of for the baseball stats. And actually, Coach Ochoa met my wife, I think, and it said that he loved us again. And I was like, oh my goodness. I don't know what he was doing in Sierra Vista, but thank you, Coach Ochoa. Always loved the Douglas Bulldogs and especially the baseball team.
Yeah, and again, Coach Long, nice guy. I hadn't met him yet. Again, what a good game for those kids.
And speaking of that game,
hard-fought game from both sides, and I do mean hard-fought.
So if I told you that Sebastian Lopez went through 8 for 12 with 78 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, what would you think?
Pretty efficient. The interception was, every time sometimes you see quarterbacks throw interceptions that, the interception was a little off-putting.
He had one bad pick. There was one
play.
on fourth down. Whatever. He's trying to make a play on fourth down. So he did have one mistake. But Adrian Borquez in the chat says #Puma Pride. Sebastian Lopez also ran the ball 12 times for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. Sebastian Lopez, obviously, especially with that game-sealing interception, player of the game, I think across all of the broadcasting people that were there.
He got player of the week, for everybody.
He shared it. I saw it. Yeah. I liked it. Bryson Meyer had a quiet 100-yard rushing game. He had 17 carries, 101 yards, kind of snuck up on us. So Bryson Meyer, of course, the big power back and speed back for the Bisbee Pumas. You said he did break a few, and you were absolutely right. Michael Coronado did catch that 1 touchdown pass from Sebastian Lopez, and he had a pretty big game defensively.
I said defensive play of the game.
We're going to speak about it in a second. Going over to defense, Spencer Anthony, tell me if you heard this before, led the team in tackles, 15 tackles, 2 in the backfield. Now, I'm going to read off these stats because the Pumas put in that they had 8 sacks. But I don't know if that's actually the case. They did tackle the quarterback behind the line of scrimmage, but that doesn't really count as a sack sometimes. So I'm just going to read them off, and we're going to go ahead and say that it's true.
Everybody knows that I'm a Bisbee guy. I don't mean anything by this. You had 2 sacks in that game. We were there.
Well, Spencer Anthony had 2.5 of those sacks. Fabian Hernandez, the junior standout defensive end for the Bisbee Pumas, who I've been calling as the best player in Cochise County since he was a freshman. 12 tackles, 3 in the backfield, 2.5 sacks for Fabian Hernandez. I know he did get one.
While we're there, because of those officially recorded stats, Fabian Hernandez is number 5 in the nation in sacks right now.
Jackson Alvarez had 10 tackles.
You were going to keep me quiet long, Fabian.
1 tackle in the backfield and then 1 interception. Of course, Jackson Alvarez was playing defensive line last year, moved over to linebacker, and that's really helping the Bisbee Pumas.
He was a standout performer for that team.
Javi Montiel, not to be outdone, had 2 tackles in the backfield, 1 sack. Sebastian Lopez had an interception. And Michael Coronado, 2 tackles in the backfield, 1.5 sack, and like you said, Dave, the play of the game. Go ahead and paint the picture for everyone, unless you want me to do it.
No, go ahead. I remember the play, but you go ahead.
All right, so
I remember the play.
The play was very clear-cut. The offensive play call for the Douglas Bulldogs. They wanted to get Hurtado, who was having a huge game in the corner of the end zone. He got behind his man by a couple steps, and we saw it. Everyone saw it. Jose Aveniguera saw it. He's cocking back to throw this football, and all of a sudden, Michael Coronado, all 6 feet 1 inch of him, jumps up as if he's got Dave ups in basketball and swallowed him. He couldn't get the pass off, and he jumps down, and Ivan Aguirre, who is an incredibly fast quarterback, used his legs very well in that game, starts rolling out to the right, and Michael Coronado had enough speed to chase him down and get the sack. So
they did have more than 2 sacks because he did get the sack right there. Yeah. So, okay. All right. You had more than 2.
Hey, this is you. You're the one questioning it. I'm just reading off the stats, all right?
But, I love
you,
play of the game. Yeah, Michael, again, it wasn't the fact that he got him to stop him from throwing the ball, the fact that he caught him for the sack.
Yeah, because
nobody was catching that
Jose
kid.
Aveniguera used his leg. He definitely had over 100 yards rushing, in that game.
Oh,
Definitely had over 100.
easily.
He definitely had over 100 passing, a few touchdowns. Jose Avenaguera was going to break that, and to have the speed, not only because he stopped his whole momentum to jump up in the air, so it's not like he's going forward. Avenaguera gets a few steps on him. He was able to chase him down. That was a great play from Michael Coronado. The Bisbee Pumas made plays all over the field. The Douglas Bulldogs, some things might have happened. They had a team dinner, and apparently they all had food poisoning.
Thank you for reminding me about that.
So 26-20, they did fall, but what a battle it was, and they were not going away.
Well, they had a couple linemen go down during that game as well. Mikey Pearson went down.
He did come back later.
But yeah,
but
they were playing
loss.
man down a couple of those possessions. With as far as their line is concerned, which is the strength of the Douglas Bulldogs.
Don't worry, Dan the man over there is working on getting the broadcast back up on Cool FM.
Adrian Borquez, you specifically, we have somebody now that actually has the game still, so the game is not lost forever.
Yeah, if we can't get it back with the view counts we had, Dan the man's going to go ahead and get his broadcast back up there, and we'll have it at least in some facet on Cool FM.
We have the game. It's not lost forever.
Emilio Mendez in the chat. Emilio Mendez.
Emilio Mendez, and let's go Pumas. He was sitting 3 rows in front of us during that game. Of course he was, along with Mama Montiel and the rest of the
Wow, what an
crew.
atmosphere. You know, we talked about this game enough. The other teams won. But my goodness, man. Just the atmosphere.
Anytime you're at a high school game that has 5,000 people at it in Arizona, it's a big deal.
It was all the way over to the baseball field. Douglas fans were standing.
There was 100 Douglas fans in the park just streaming it because last time they were Bisbee they had to stand up. There was 100 Douglas fans in the park just watching the stream.
Appreciate you.
I met them.
That game was everything we thought it would be. And shout out, speaking one more time, to Dan the man, who tested out graphics on that one, and they came off very well. So look for that going forward with all of our high school broadcasts. Hopefully we can work that out for you, just making the quality a little better. And what a game to start it out on. But let's go over to another team now. That's enough. It's enough.
We get to do it again next year.
No, I'm just kidding.
we get to do it again next year.
We're going to move over to the Benson Bobcats now. Benson fell 25-35 against Morenci, which drops them to 1-2. Bisbee, by the way, 2-0. I don't think I mentioned that. And the Bobcats' next game is in 2 weeks as they host the Tombstone Yellow Jackets, a game we will be at for sure. Now, Benson, just like a team we're going to talk about later, Wilcox, front-loaded their schedule with a lot of good teams. And Morenci, I do believe, is 3A now. It's one of those. Oh, Ryan Russell.
I think Morenci did go up to 3A.
Ryan Russell in the chat says, my boys did great. We'll have to see. I think he's talking about Buena. I think it was Morenci that went up to 3A. We don't care. They're not Cochise County. Yeah. So let's talk about Dawson Judd and the game he had. Now, if anyone knows this, we know that Dalton Crockett was one of our favorite quarterbacks to watch last year. Dawson Judd has now taken that over, and he had a very good game, 18 of 29 for 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, did throw 2 picks, but it's his first year starting. He's going to make some mistakes. Also ran the ball 4 times for 67 yards. The junior, Dawson Judd, getting it done.
Okay, Dawson Judd is in the house now. He's officially his team.
Flint Davis carried the ball 14 times for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns, so still hasn't cracked that 100-yard mark since that first game where he went absolutely ballistic, but the 2 touchdowns and what's that, almost a 4-yard per carry average or something like that. Like, Flint Davis is getting it done on the ground. What I'm most excited about is, Ryan Russell's talking about the Colts, David Harris. And there's a few wide receivers in this county that are starting to put up numbers where we had Malachi last year. We have quite a few this year, and David Harris is one of those players. David Harris caught the ball 8 times for 95 yards in this ball game. Jason Santo and Raleigh Evans were the ones who caught the touchdowns from Dawson Judd. They also combined to have 100 yards receiving as well. So through the air, Benson's getting it done.
Yeah, well, again, in 2A football, it's not a thing that you see a whole lot of, over 200 yards from a quarterback in a game. So Dawson Judd's starting to figure out how to run that offense.
Let's go over to the best stat known to man, the pancake blocks from the offensive linemen. Of course, Buchanan Garrett and Case Williams are going to be there. Eli Little, a new person to the pancake blocks for the Benson Bobcats, as he got one as well. Going back to Buchanan Garrett, he did force a fumble on defense, and this is where we're going to see.
Eli Little went big? Is that what you're telling me?
Ryan Russell in the chat says, love the graphics, guys. That's all Dan the man. That was wild. We didn't know how that was going to work, and it worked seamlessly.
By the way, just a thing, if you see why I'm always holding this, because he has the good mic stand, and if I let go, it does that.
Wow, nobody cared. All right, so
I don't have my hand up by my face the entire time.
Let's get over to the tackles. The tackles were led by Andrew Workman, catcher for the Benson Bobcats.
We're hearing that name a lot this year already.
Samuel Martin also had 13 tackles. As a team, they had 14 tackles in the backfield. David Harris, the wide receiver extraordinaire, also pitched in with a sack, and Harley Van Wormer also had double-digit tackles with 10.
Another name we're hearing a lot this year.
Just a little bit too short for the Benson Bobcats, but you know I love front-loading the schedule with teams that might be better than you or at least are going to give you a challenge. And I love what Benson and Wilcox did, and it's only going to serve them better when they get to sections.
Yeah. Play the tough ones first and get that hard. Yeah, so that way by the time you get to your sectional games, you're ready to go.
Let's jump over to the Tombstone Yellow Jackets, the third 2A team we're going to talk about now.
I think that they heard us say something about 7 points. I think they might have heard us say that.
Yeah, they only scored 6 in their last game, and now they held San Carlos to 6 points and scored 58 themselves. Their next game is going to be hosting Globe. That's going to be this Thursday. Again, working on getting to that one. 1-1, the Tombstone Yellow Jackets. What I found very interesting is there are no stats for DJ Elias. So I wonder if DJ's working on an injury or if he couldn't make it to the game somehow. Either which way.
With their stats on everybody else?
Oh, yeah.
But they scored.
They scored 58 points.
Well, I want to talk about the fact that they've only given up 7 and 6. They've given up 13 points collectively as a defense this year. So, I mean, without even getting into stats. That's something. That's an eye opener.
And that's why we picked them as one of the best teams in the county. Is we thought the defense was going to be there. We knew the defense was going to be there, and we didn't think that the offense would have struggled in the first game like it did. Now they had to figure things out without Malachi, but looks like they figured that out, Dave.
And if DJ didn't play, that is a very eye-opening number.
Ain't that the truth? So they did have 2 passes in the game, both completed. A touchdown pass from Hank Moody and Hunter Griesmore. Yeah, Adrian Borges, the 3 players could not participate for Tombstone. I hope that doesn't translate to this Thursday. Adrian Borges with his nose to the beat of everything, Cochise County. Appreciate you.
Yeah. I know why DJ didn't play in that game.
We got Adrian Borges for our current updates. We have JP Wildman for our history. Let me tell you, we don't have to do anything. But, yeah, so Hunter Gracemore also added 171 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, did intercept a pass on defense as well. Hank Moody, as well as throwing a touchdown, he's a sophomore now, not a fabulous freshman anymore, also rushed for a touchdown. Jemiah Wallace, who is back for the Tombstone Yellow Jackets and back in the box score, 13 carries, 154 yards, and a touchdown.
There it is.
Jabari Thomas also added a rushing touchdown, and Andrew Gracemore caught both the passes for the Tombstone Yellow Jackets, 2 catches, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
So they did this just primarily running the ball.
Primarily, 99% running the ball. Adrian Borges in the chat says, Sebastian is the best quarterback in the county. He's got some – I'm going to talk about a kid later who might challenge him for that one. Sebastian Lopez. He's got people hot on his heels. I would agree, though, Adrian.
Lopez is a world beater right now.
Ain't that the truth? I would agree. I'm just trying to sell some views. Let's talk about Andrew Gracemore defensively.
Stir the pot.
12 tackles. We're going to talk also about Aiden Luna, who had a sack and 2 tackles for losses in this one. Vlad Velasquez, 1.5 tackles for losses and a sack. Jabari Thomas, a tackle for loss and a sack. And Thomas Smith also had a sack for the Tombstone Yellow Jackets, and that's going to round out their defense. That hard-hitting Tombstone defense is back and better than ever. Like you said, only 13 points allowed on the season.
Yeah, looking good. We're not sure what happened last week, but I want all hands on deck on Thursday, especially if he makes it over there to do the game.
Speaking of,
I didn't know you were playing on Thursday. I only get to take my grandkids one day a week. I didn't know you were playing on Thursday. I would have picked a different day.
Speaking of front-loading your schedule with tough teams, the Wilcox Cowboys, who scheduled 2 top 5 teams in 2A, now scheduled a top 20 team, in, according to Max Preps, in Sholo in 3A, and they lost 21-7. They will play next in 2 weeks at Santa Rita, so that's an easy win.
So that's a get-right game.
The stray shots at Santa Rita.
Got to fire a bullet at Santa Rita at least once a show.
But, yeah, so Wilcox will get right. But, again, a team that's front-loaded the schedule, and they played with these teams, and they're not going to – just the Tonopah Valley, Sir Isaac Caldwell Sanchez might be the greatest high school football player I've ever seen. So,
but yeah, I mean, Santa Rita is going to be the get-right game. You're going to win that game by 60, and then, we'll get this thing back on track.
And we're going to talk about quarterback Joe Sanchez, threw for 41 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. But the big news for the Wilcox offense Ismael Cuevas gets back in the 100-yard column, 21 carries for 113 yards. I do believe that's his first century mark this season. Anthony Morales, Ant-Man. I didn't know if you were going to meet me on that one, my bad. 36 yards receiving and a touchdown. Travis Larson, Caleb Cook also had 10 tackles. Caleb Cook recorded Wilcox's only tackle for loss. Ant-Man and Jonathan Miranda also contributed on defense with a sack. So, again, Wilcox and Benson front-loading their schedule with tough teams and hanging with these tough teams for the most part. And, again, just going to benefit them in sections. And speaking of tough game, I mean, Bisbee did just take out a 4A team as well. So it's not like, other teams aren't doing that as well.
Well, Bisbee didn't have a choice. They've been playing that game since 1906. But, yeah, Wilcox is going to run the ball for 600 yards against Santa Rita. I always feel so bad for those kids. Wilcox, go easy on them. Don't beat them up too bad.
So look for Landon Ward to be your offensive player of the week.
Yeah, the Ward might run for 500 yards in that
Katie
game.
McDonald, we did not talk about St. David yet, and that's a great segue because the next team we're talking about, the St. David Tigers. When I say all the way back in the beginning of the season, Dave, I meant all the way back. St. David is doing St. David things as they win 65-0 over Ray, moving to 3-0. Their next game is at Duncan, which, spoiler, is another win for the St. David Tigers.
Again, they're putting up gaudy numbers right now. It's getting out of control. Every week is like 68-0. You notice how I accidentally, conveniently took the 4 big winners and put them right over here in front of me?
That's convenient, to say the least. Adrian Borquez in the chat says Bisbee is also playing Santa Cruz preseason number 1. We know all about it.
Oh, yeah.
We said if you beat Douglas, we're going to be there for Santa Cruz. You did that, and we are very interested to see how the Bisbee Pumas stack up against Santa Cruz, especially with that defense. But we talked enough about Bisbee.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You ball, you get the call. We're going back. But
it's tough when you have like 99% of your chat is Bisbee people.
Well,
you can't really get away from them.
People always ask
Love
me,
you guys.
People always ask me, what game are you doing this week? Are you doing the Buena game? Are you doing the Tombstone game? Like, there's only 2 of us. Again, I'm not Kevin Hart. I don't have clones running around. We can only do 1 game at a time.
That joke's still not hitting as well as you'd like.
Because it's not funny. It's true.
Then we're going to go over to St. David. We're going to talk about Adrian Borquez says strength of schedule. Vincent Ciccarello, the freshman quarterback for the St. David Tigers, 6 of 9, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. Stop me if you heard that one before. The kid not only putting up the numbers, but playing very clean football, Dave.
Those are like Mohamed Sanu efficiency numbers. He never misses.
Amelia Mendez says, we love you guys. We love you too, Amelia. That's going to bring us to Cedar Haney and Chase Pacheco, who had 100 yards rushing each in this game. Surprise, surprise. 248 total yards. Cedar Haney added 3 touchdowns. Chase Pacheco had 1 touchdown. And then we had 2 touchdowns receptions. Grayson Merrill, Keston Richardson each had 1. They had 11 team pancake blocks. This is why I love you, St. David. Top Pacheco had 3. Gannon Carafa had 3. And again, if you don't know what pancakes is you take another human being and you overwhelm him so much that he falls to the ground and you fall on top of him. That's like a pancake stack. Also, Champ Pacheco is a freshman with a name like that.
It's a machine in St. David.
It's always a machine in St. David for sure. Atticus DeMille and Howard Gorman also, and Luke Haymore as well, contributed on the pancake blocks. So, again, my favorite stat in St. David pulling out all the stops on those. We do have Katie McDonald says, Atticus DeMille is my son. Perfect. What timing. Katie, your timing could not be more perfect in this chat right now. You have no idea.
Excuse me just a moment, folks. I'm going to let him keep going for a moment.
Where are you going? Where do you think you're going? This guy. As a team, they had 12 team tackles for losses. Top Pacheco had 4 of them. Chase Pacheco, and Emmett Eder had 3. Todd also contributed with 2.5 sacks. Emmett Eder had a half sack. So, again, Top Pacheco, as a freshman, made our All-Cochise County team, and as a sophomore is going to be leading that All-Cochise County team from what we could see. Isaac Wilson contributed on defense with a forced fumble as well. Chase Pacheco, he's not done. He's back on defense. 2 interceptions. Gannon Carafa with an interception, and also big man Todd Pacheco filling up the box score with an interception as well. That's my boy.
It's a machine in St. David.
It's
a factory.
Machine in St. David. It is crazy how good they are.
I get excited for St. I mean, while they're winning like 93-0 games right now, St. David basketball is a show. Can't wait for that.
They rebuilded 1 year last year, made the playoffs, comfortably made the playoffs, and now they're going to come back and
win the whole thing. Yeah.
Contend for those state championships that they're known for.
There's a team that can beat people better than 68-0, and I can't wait to see them.
It's going to bring us over to our other AIA 1A team, the Valley Union Blue Devils, who won 24-13 against Baba Kivri, and they are now going to host Ray in their next game. But that moves the Valley Union Blue Devils to 1-1.
Well, if they're playing Ray, that means they're 2-1. So yeah, Valley Union's on track, baby. Did my boy finally play?
Dylan Mitchell played 6 of 11, 71 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. A little bit rusty for Dylan Mitchell, but that's okay because they won 24-13, and it wasn't even really that much of a game as our boy Miles Richardson, who took over for Dylan Mitchell in that Week 1 game as he couldn't play. 12 carries, 111 yards, and a touchdown.
Okay.
Marshall Larson, defensive line extraordinaire, also pitched in an offensive touchdown. Stephen De La Cruz had 55 receiving yards and did catch that touchdown from Dylan Mitchell. And Marshall Larson, the defensive expert on the line, had also 14 tackles in this ball game. Angel Caparone had a sack and a forced fumble. Christopher Gonzalez with the sack. Yahir Luna, Stephen De La Cruz, and Dylan Mitchell all contributed with an interception. I didn't write their first names because I'm like,
a lot of kids for Valley Union.
Yeah, Valley Union. Dylan Mitchell returning the favor over to Baba Kivri, and that's going to move the Blue Devils to 1-1. So looking a lot better now after they got their quarterback Dylan Mitchell back.
2-1 after they play Ray. So Valley Union's back in business.
Katie McDonald back in the chat says, sadly, he tackled number 11 and injured the kid. He is a senior. Hopefully he is okay now. That's football. Injuries happen. You're gonna have to hit him as hard as you can to get him to the ground. Otherwise, Derrick Henry runs through your face.
Oh, I can tell you the story of Willis McGahee.
I didn't get the American Leadership Academy again. First year out, they're just trying to learn football. So that's going to bring us to our other Canyon Athletic Association 1A team, the Marine Academy Eagles. Dave, 52-8 after that shellacking they took in Week 1, and this is against the runners-up for the state championship, and that was Mission Heights Prep Phantoms. So their next game is going to be at Imagine Prep. What a get-right game for the Marine Academy Eagles.
Well, what it sounds like to me, again, not knowing the inside, is that their heads got a little big, they got a little humbled, and they remembered who they were, and they came back and gave a beating.
We told you Jalen Champton was going to get that corrected.
Yeah.
They don't call him Champton for nothing.
Yeah, the undefeated last year. Again, that weird loss last week, so you knew Marine was going to get right and give them a beating, and they did.
We had Jeremiah Bethea taking snaps under center. He went 8 of 11, 236 yards, technical Super Bowl style, 3 touchdowns and a pick, and also ran for 10 carries, 107 yards, a touchdown, and contributed with an interception on defense. And Tristan Woodward said, no, I was right the first time, says Mission Heights was the number 4 team last year. So this is a huge win for the Marine Academy Eagles.
Well, no, but that's what you just mentioned. That's 30 yards of completion. That's 10 yards of carry, touchdowns for both, and an interception. Okay.
Nice to see Andre Shields is back for the Marine Academy
I see
Eagles.
You.
That's exactly what Andre Shields was doing last year for him, too. So it looks like Jeremiah Bethea is ready to take that torch. Logan Seeley.
Jeremiah Bethea, name you need to know.
Logan Seeley combined 3 touchdowns receiving and rushing in this one. Isaac Merrill, Johnny Torres, Nate Hullinger also contributed with a touchdown as well. Defensively, Logan Seeley leads the team with 19 tackles in the game. That's right, 19.
Seeley doesn't leak.
Oh, Synergy Home Care says, we love you guys, best sports show ever. And they're not just saying that because they're a sponsor. And I also work for them.
It will be when you get to my diatribe today.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. We got to run through these.
I told you, no more nice guy once the NFL starts.
Dave gets mad about something. Here we go. Logan Sealer also added a tackle for loss. Mason Meskey also 10 tackles in the game, 1 in the backfield. Jake Jensen and Carlos Aponte also adding a tackle in the backfield. Mason Meskey also adding a sack as well in this ball game. Johnny Torres and Sprout Amar adding a forced fumble defensively. Overall, as a team, Dave, they had 258 rushing yards and 236 passing yards. It's pretty good offense.
Yeah, 500 yards of offense. I don't care if 8-man football, 11-man football, 20-man football. That's a lot of offense.
This guy. So, yeah, the 1A team's getting back. A lot of Cochise County teams getting back this week. We're going to move on. We already talked about the Douglas Bulldogs slightly. We don't have the stats again. Sorry, everybody. We told you who was playing big in that game. But unfortunately, we don't have the stats to back it up. But that's going to take us to our last team, the Buena Colts. Ironwood Ridge Academy, they won 49-21 in their home opener. They're going to be at Catalina Foothills, a school we've been to.
A gorgeous school.
Yeah, I was going to say if their amenities or anything like their teams, they're going to be a tough one. But man, you talk about Sebastian Lopez and everything he does as a quarterback. I told you to look out for this kid preseason. Nash Moore for the Buena Colts. He looked the part. He was playing the part. 13 of 17, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions for the quarterback of the Colts.
I'll see you in the playoffs, Buena. Let's go get us a playoff win this week, huh?
That's exciting times in Buena because now they have this elite quarterback to pair with Scrappy and Michael Luan, who combined for over 130 yards rushing. Michael Luan had 2 touchdowns. Scrappy had a touchdown. Charlie Price also added a touchdown. Jaden Thomas, the favorite target for Nashmore, 2 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Elias Dyson, also Latavius T.J. Walker, adding touchdowns, and Walker actually had 77 receiving yards. So the air.
What you should do with Buena is mention who didn't score touchdowns. You would save us time on the show. People got to get back to work.
People want to hear their kids' names.
No, I don't. I was like, everybody scored a touchdown for the Buena Colts. It was ugly.
You're not wrong about that one. Moving over to defensively, Cooper Krause and Latavius T.J. Walker led the team with 9 tackles. Trenton Williams, a name we remember from last year, all Cochise team. He's looking to make that push again. 3 sacks in this ball game, and not to be left behind, Sean Bookman, who actually saw without pads, and he is NFL ready. Let me tell you, also contributed 2 sacks as well. We had Bryson Harris and Zachary Barrett, each with a forced fumble. Elias Dyson, stop me if you heard this one, our all Cochise corner last year, had an interception, and then also Daniel Bolin also contributed an interception. Look at me getting through my chicken scratch handwriting with no problems for the first time ever. And that is the Buena Colts, 49-21 over Ironwood Ridge.
Like, I know when you play teams, like, you switch every year going back and forth to where you play. For those of you Buena Colts that have not been to Catalina Foothills, enjoy the experience because it is a gorgeous, gorgeous high school overlooking all of Tucson. Once you get there, you're going to be slightly overwhelmed by the view. So, once you enjoy it, breathe it in, and then go kick their butts.
So that's going to take us to me, unpreparedly, ranking these teams.
As always.
Look, I do the research for the kids and the stats, okay? This is just spur-of-the-moment type stuff that we got going on here. So, as customary, ALA, again, figuring their first season of football out, they're going to be our first team.
We can't put you on the table till you bring us a hat.
Yeah, no kidding, right? We need it, too. We got it was Valley Union for 2 years, and they got us a hat. And then all of a sudden we got this new school.
They didn't get us a hat. They got us care packages.
That was awesome.
We met
Valley
Union
family.
Yeah, we met them in St. David, and there were sunflower seeds and big league chew and a hat and all kinds of stuff.
We're just going to get the Colts out of here right away.
Yeah,
Spoiler,
number
Colts
one.
are number one.
You can't drop after shellacking like that.
The Brandon Colts are going to be here for a very, very long time. I will tell you that right now. That's going to move us to...
Oh, you know who number 2 is.
Well, no, we're going to go this way now.
Oh.
The Valley Union Blue Devils back in the win column, but unfortunately for them, there's a lot of 1A teams that are making a lot of noise right now, and that's something to behold.
That Valley Union St. David game is going to be just wild. There might be 200 points scored in that game.
I think the Douglas Bulldogs need some motivation, Dave. Last year, you didn't believe in the Douglas Bulldogs. You said, enjoy your season. You guys aren't going to win again or something to that effect. And then all of a sudden, they rattled off 6 straight wins.
After what I just saw from Yvonne Aguera and that line, I mean, again, it's a conference pick.
Tough.
Things happen. They're going to be fine.
There's very, very good football teams here. This is the problem when we're talking about a top 5. That's going to take us.
By the way, nice to meet you, Mr. Aguera. I insisted on meeting you when I was talking to the coach. I'm like, where's this kid I've been watching for 3 years?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I did get to meet his older brother, Isaac, and that kid is huge, FYI. There's a reason he throws 90 miles an hour, probably at Cochise College right now. Who knows? That's going to take us to the Benson Bobcats. I think Benson's going to be there at the end. I think they front-loaded their schedule, but right now they're 1-2, and it's hard to put them up there.
Well, that Tombstone game is going to be a big one for who goes up, who goes down in the region kind of game. We will be there for that one.
Speaking of front-loading their schedule, I have to do it to Wilcox. I'm sorry, Wilcox. Again, 1-2, it's just tough to – and do I think Wilcox is going to miss the playoffs? No. But right now, this is where they're at. It's 1 and 2.
My co-broadcaster has fallen in love with the city of Wilcox.
I have.
He really has.
That's going to get us to our top 5, where we will put the Berean Academy Eagles cracking the top 5 for the first time, and expect that to only go up because that was the state runner-up. They did 52-8 last year, and if that's the case, they're not going to lose again this season.
Yeah, Berean back in the top 5 where they rightfully belong.
That's going to bring us over to the Tombstone Yellow Jackets, who got their get-right game.
Without superstar.
Without 3 superstars, apparently, according to Coach Borkaz for the Bisbee Pumas. And that's
that's impressive victory. If DJ didn't play, my goodness, kids. Woo!
2 and 3. These hats are heavy. Who goes where? Bisbee 3, St. David 2. How are you going to knock the St. David Tigers off when they've scored 200 points and only given up 20 in the season?
Yeah, I don't think they've given up. I don't think it was 20. I don't think they've given up that many.
They gave up 14 in a game, pretty sure.
Whatever.
I don't know. Someone from St. David's here. I don't do that. I don't do that kind of research.
Total St. David 300, opponents 19.
So there are our rankings, my power rankings for the teams, and it was close. It was close to putting because that's a good Douglas team.
We'll see how the Pumas do this week.
But St. David, there's just 2 teams that are juggernauts right now in Cochise County. That's the St. David Tigers and the Buena Colts. Unfortunately, St. David doesn't play Hayden this year, and Hayden rolled through everyone last year because I really want to see how they stack up this year. I think it's a much better team.
I want to see them play Valley Union. I think it's going to be a blast.
All right, that's going to move us to out of our high school coverage.
Yes, all right. Before I start whining and complaining, we have our 3-question quizzy for Pizzy.
Nailed it.
And this is going to be all.
What a dumb name. What a dumb nickname.
Hey,
I made it too. I made both those things.
But it's going to be all NFL style this week, brought to you by Roadhouse. All right, so we had NFL football, baby. We finally got it on. There was like for all of you that are in survivor pools, there was a lot of big upsets this week as most survivor pools got wiped out. Which one surprised you the most?
You know which one surprised me the least?
What?
New England over Cincinnati. I called that one, and
He did. He's like, Joe Burrow can't play for the first month of the season.
No, he can't play, and there's been a lot of off-season turmoil. Ryan Russell in the chat says, Roadhouse. There's been so much off-season turmoil, and Jamar Chase, I'll credit to him, he's an incredible receiver. Doesn't seem like he's the kind of guy that's going to not get paid and then perform. Seems like he's going to be into himself a little bit on that.
Are all wide receivers?
Yeah, some disguise it. Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions. Doesn't matter how many targets he gets. He plays as hard as he can on every play. But with that being said,
but you're right though that you did call that one by a mile.
Let's see, who were the upsets this week?
Oh well,
would you consider Pittsburgh over Atlanta an upset?
Everybody had Atlanta winning the South, and they lost to a team that couldn't score a touchdown.
I think not an upset. The fact that Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers look so terrible at quarterback this week, I think that's concerning. I think that's a little bit surprising.
You mean
for
it's
everybody.
tough to play when you're 38 years old, coming off an Achilles injury? Who would have thought?
I was surprised that Dallas was underdogs going into the Cleveland game. It's almost like people didn't watch Deshaun Watson play last year.
It's so hard not to do it when you say his name. It's a family-friendly show.
What do you have? What other upsets happened? Arizona almost took it over.
I'm asking you a question. Honestly, the biggest upset of the week was
New
Tennessee fumbling the bag against the Bears.
Yeah, you're not wrong
like
about
they
that.
had that. I watched. That was one of the games that I watched, and that game was over. The Tennessee Titans had beaten them 7 times, and miracle, the Bears win the game.
I'll say Atlanta because I took him in our Survivor, so I'm out week 1 along
He
with half the league.
He bet on Kirk Cousins.
So here's the thing: it came down to betting on Kirk Cousins or betting on Derek Carr. Everyone knows how I feel about Derek Carr. He's the last of the mids. He's not even the king of the mids. So I took it and put it on the king of the mids, Kirk Cousins, and that bit me in the butt because, the Carolina Panthers just are that bad at football.
I got a bee attacking me. You keep going.
The Carolina Panthers lose to these top 3 teams, no doubt, in walk-off fashion. And I doubt they can compete to anyone else.
Winning Carolina would be one heck of a game.
I'll tell you right now.
All right, let's see what else we got
Thank you, Ryan.
here. Question number 2. This is for all y'all out there, by the way. How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys going in there and making Deshaun Watson look as pedestrian as he's looked forever? I think it was a really good win for the Dallas Cowboys. The bright spot for you is that Ezekiel Elliott didn't look like he was that old. And that's a really good Cleveland Brown defense.
That Tubby.
And Dak Prescott had a throw that I said, oh, my God, he's but this is what Dak Prescott does. He makes you think that he's really, really good, and then next week they have the Saints, and so they'll lose to the Saints or something stupid's going to happen. But the Dallas Cowboys, all the way
like
back,
the Chiefs or something. Yeah, that's what the Cowboys do.
Micah Parsons.
I was just saying, Mike Zimmer, they brought him in as defensive coordinator, and he had Michael Parsons playing on every position on that defense, and it worked.
Yeah, you couldn't really scheme to get him out. And I think the Browns didn't really do themselves a service with throwing so much. They're based on run game and play action. And man, how bad does Deshaun Watson look right now?
Well, without Nick Chubb, I mean, you expect your $240 million guaranteed money quarterback, to kind of help out a little bit, and he did not.
So Kevin Stefanski finds himself on the hot seat 1 year after going to the playoffs with no quarterback play. Whoever signed off on the Deshaun Watson deal is going.
Nice segue into my third question. So it's only been week one. Overreaction time. Who's on the hot seat?
Robert Saleh. Kevin Stefanski.
Robert Saleh was on the hot seat when he got hired.
Whoever signed Kirk Cousins, but who looks really good right now? Whoever drafted Michael Penix, even though he's not going to get to play.
Well, that's what I asked you that question on Sunday. It's like, which one are we seeing first, Jameis Winston or Michael Penix? And you said it's going to be Jameis Winston.
It's going to be Jameis Winston because Michael Penix is a rookie, and they gave Kirk Cousins a lot of money. They gave Deshaun Watson a lot of money for sure, but there's a reason you go out and sign a Jameis Winston, and coaches know that they're going to be fired if they don't make playoffs, and it doesn't matter if they play the guy or not. So if I'm Kevin Stefanski and I'm going to the owners, I'm saying I'm not playing Deshaun Watson. You can fire me on the spot, but I need to keep my job as well.
Yeah, I mean, you heard that stadium in Cleveland on Sunday. The fans are done. He's only played 13 games for the Cleveland Browns.
I watched that game 8 minutes into the first quarter, and the boos never stopped.
Oh, there was a play, if you saw, when Watson had fumbled the ball. It was recovered by Dallas, and one of his offensive linemen was down trying to recover the ball. Watson tried to help him up, and the offensive lineman refused his help and refused to even touch his hand. That's how they feel about Deshaun Watson in Cleveland right now. That's what happens
when you make all that money and you're the worst player on your team.
Well, apparently this translates through practices, and his work ethic just isn't there. He's not putting in the work needed to be a great quarterback.
Brian Daboll's on the hot seat for sure. I mean, there's a few coaches that perform like Robert Saleh is going to get fired if they can't win.
If they go 1-4, he's gone.
Yes, if they can't get off the schneid in the win column.
I mean, we'll give them last night. It was the Niners. I mean, we'll give them that one.
They looked just as bad as they looked with Zach Wilson.
I know. I was just saying I'll give them a pass on the Niners. That's a tough one.
Brian Daboll's getting fired. Daniel Jones is getting released. They're going to eat the dead cap on that one.
And the worst news for the Giants, they don't have Tyrod Taylor anymore. He went to the Jets.
Depending on how bad this season could go, Zach for the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know his last name?
I don't remember. Is that?
I can't get Brandon Staley out of my head.
He's an offensive coordinator for somebody else.
Well, which Division III team do you go to?
No, he's like the offensive coordinator for like the Niners or something. I don't even know.
No way.
He really is.
Zach Taylor. Depending on how bad it goes for the Bengals, like if they go 4 or 5 games under 500, they might get rid of him. So there's a lot going. Antonio Pierce could be on the hot seat just because he was an interim coach that kind of gave the job to him, not being over his head.
They actually held their own against the Chargers for quite a while in that game
because they paid him so much money. A sneaky one, maybe not as dire, like they're not going to get rid of him during the season. Sean Payton for the Broncos.
Sean Payton
his
is
decision
the
to
most
get rid of Russ.
Overrated coach in all of football.
It was his decision to get rid of Russ, and if he can't make it work, then he looks bad too. So you never know. A lot of people on the hot seat after week one. That's what we call an overreaction.
Overreactions.
Anyway, I think that's going to. Is that all the questions you got for me today?
That was 3 of them.
All right, it's time to buckle in, strap up, and remind the viewers that the opinions and thoughts of my co-broadcaster do not necessarily reflect that of his co-broadcaster, Pueblo Del Sol, Texas Roadhouse, Synergy Home Care, or Cool FM Live. But that being said, he's ranting, he's raving. That's what we call Dave, and it's time for Dave's diatribe. Dave, take it away.
I spent 4 days trying to find a horn, like off a bicycle, one of my grandkids. I couldn't find the horn, but if I had a horn, honk, honk, it's time to toot it. So about 7 months ago, sitting right here at Pueblo Del Sol, I had a little diatribe, and we talked about the what was the consensus going to be, the consensus number 1 overall pick in the NFL. And I said I wouldn't touch the kid for a nickel. I'll let somebody else draft him. I'll let somebody else make that mistake. I won't touch the kid for a nickel. Well, the Bears drafted Caleb Williams, the next Patrick Mahomes. Went on the 4 horsemen. If you're not familiar with the 4 horsemen, John Elway, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, the 4 guarantees that ever came out. Caleb Williams was supposed to be the 5th one. Well, the Bears drafted Caleb Williams, and they played him in week 1. Caleb Williams had 93 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, turnover. The team had 154 total yards. Now, a lot of rookie quarterbacks didn't look good on Sunday. Bo Nix. A lot of these guys didn't look great. Caleb Williams looked like he didn't belong. He looked like the game was too fast for him, that he has no idea. Like, he doesn't belong in the NFL right now. He might turn around and fix this, but for right now, Caleb Williams. Now, I talked about this with my wife, who doesn't care. There are, as far as quarterbacks are concerned, the quarterbacks are the leader of the team. You're a leader of men. So in the NFL, you have 52 300-pound grown men looking at one man to lead them. Caleb Williams has personality traits and characteristics that I believe 52 other grown men won't follow this guy. I mean, again, after that win, Caleb Williams had 0 to contribute to, and he's over there giving out the big W's, and I'm like, Caleb Williams, there's a lot of characteristics for this young man. That's why I wouldn't touch him with a nickel. It might get better for Caleb Williams in Chicago. It probably will. But right now, honk, honk, I'm a genius. And speaking of, a second honk, honk, as I said a couple of weeks ago, a name you need to know, Brandon Aubrey, kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. How'd Brandon Aubrey do? 4 for 4, 2 of them for 50 yards, 2 for 2 on the extra points. He still hasn't missed yet. So it's almost like somebody that sits here and whines and complains about stuff knows exactly what he's talking about. Honk, honk.
He would have hit a 67-yarder as well, but they had a delay game penalty and moved him back to 71 or 72, and he was about to kick that, but they decided better of it, just threw the Hail Mary at the end of the half.
So, yes, double honks today. Caleb Williams, you suck. Brandon Aubrey, you're awesome.
I think the one thing I can piggyback off of, because I did say my favorite quarterback coming out is Michael Penix, and we'll see, hopefully sooner rather than later.
We'll see by week 6. We'll see if you're right.
Hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll see how he does. But the talent, the arm talent, the athleticism, Caleb Williams is off the charts. You can't.
What athleticism? Even the 19-yard sack that he took?
Again, this is what I'm going to piggyback off of, because you remember you were doing your whole rant, and I said he's not going to be able to run away from 300-pound linemen that can run 4.8s. And on the edges on NFL football teams, they're running 4.4s just like wide receivers do. They're very fast as well. So I think that's what you saw. He was doing this little backwards motion to try to run away, and that's just losing him yardage. And my biggest complaint, my biggest worry, can he play in time and rhythm? And I think this is sad to say, this is the first humbling experience he's had. To your point, it has to get better, but it's only going to get better later, because now he's got to work through playing in the pocket, and that's just something he's not used to. This could take years.
My issues with Caleb Williams have nothing to do with football. They have to do with everything that isn't football. I don't like the way he walks. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like the way he carries himself in post-game press conferences. Again, you're going to have
arrogance and confidence. There's a fine line.
Yeah, you're going to have, again, a lot of
Shedeur Sanders is my Caleb Williams. I hate Shedeur Sanders.
There's a lot of veterans on the Chicago Bears that are going to get really tired of this really quickly if he doesn't start maturing. How's that word?
Oh, man. Ryan Russell in the chat says he's still knocking off the cobwebs. He says, honky, honky. And then Richard Wilson says, I don't have a horn, so I'll give you a thumbs up. So definitely Richard Wilson agrees with you on that Caleb Williams take for sure.
Hey, every once in a while, twice a day, my broken watch gets it right,
I will say, tooting my own horn on this one, I've been correct about the top quarterback prospect going all the way back to Teddy Bridgewater over Johnny Manziel. It's not a big win because they're both, very mediocre quarterbacks, but I didn't see with Johnny Manziel. And so, again, I'm waiting to see Michael Penix to see if I'm right on this one, because your University of Washington, I watched a lot of the games with you. I could see that guy was NFL ready. It's 3-step, 4-step, 5-step drop, balls out, balls out, balls out. And he's thrown in tight windows. I don't know why people complicate this game.
Caleb Williams couldn't beat Oregon. Caleb Williams couldn't beat Washington. So what makes you think he's going to go in there and beat the Titans?
And again, he's running around trying to do the Patrick Mahomes thing, but he's not. He's going to find out. Like, how often do you see Patrick Mahomes try to break the pocket backwards? He never does. He steps up and runs.
Yeah. Again, so Caleb Williams doesn't look ready.
There's going to be a lot of instinctual things that Caleb Williams is going to have to get over, and this is one of those things where he might not get over them. I will say, talent's off the charts with the kid. He could throw a ball just as good as anyone in the NFL, but there's a lot of people that could do that.
Yeah, thank you. You took the words out of my mouth as we watched Sam Darnold light it up for the Minnesota Vikings. I knew
Danny Dimes. Oh yeah, Danny Dimes.
A million years ago, I had a guy that I worked with, and his cousin played for the Giants, and that's when Kerry Collins was the quarterback for the Giants, and he said KC could spin it. All these guys can spin it. All of them have talent.
Yeah,
it's how you translate that talent onto the field, and we'll see if that kid ever does.
There's levels to it. There's differences to it. That's
separations in the preparation.
When we go and we watch these teams,
like
we could see. Like the kid from Tune Up a Valley, or Sebastian Lopez, or DJ Elias, or someone like that. And we're going to get to see Dawson Judd out. We're going to get to see Nash Moore, hopefully a little bit more on the Cool FM broadcast. But it's just different. There's levels to this. So even those kids, like they're not going to be at and they throw the prettiest balls in Cochise County. It's just different when the NFL players do it. The ball just jumps on you. It's like they flick their wrist and all of a sudden the ball's there.
Yeah, well, yes.
Second string, first string, third string practice squad, it doesn't matter. Every player in the NFL can throw a ball better than you. Except for Daniel Jones.
Except for random stray shots.
Not random. That guy is bad at football. If he wasn't making $40 million, he wouldn't get the stray bullet, you know?
You see, that's why we can't do football, because I'm trying to shut this thing down, and we can do
We're
this
still
all day.
going. Kirk Cousins is the worst quarterback. How do you lose with that? Anyway, go ahead, Dave.
No, that was it. But yeah, so folks, again, thank you for joining us for our Cochise County Sports Show. Again, thank you for jumping back on board, Texas Roadhouse. Roadhouse. Again, hand-cut steaks, fall at the bone ribs, the best, beautiful employees in the world. Come down to Roadhouse and see me. I'll be there tomorrow night.
Thank you to the Sierra Vista Golf Center at Pueblo Del Sol. This place is gorgeous, and it's now getting rid of a little bit of the stuffiness and the country club feeling where they want everyone to come in and have a good time. I think we had a lot to do with that because we're not country club people, let me tell you.
Speaking of that, I saw our golf playing partners walking around, but I didn't get anything in the group text.
They knew you were going to the Essence of Tranquility today after the game.
Oh, yeah.
And also, thank you to Synergy HomeCare.
Happy anniversary to my wife.
Speaking of Essence of Tranquility, you can have that in your own home when you go through Synergy HomeCare, providing non-medical home care for people that struggle with activities of daily living. Give them a call today at 520-685-1035. For Dave Davies, I'm Paul Quarter, Dan, the man behind the camera. We will see you Thursday/Friday this week.